Steven Spielberg's Lincoln continues to draw crowds in cinemas around the country. The film is a showcase for the talent of Daniel Day-Lewis, and many believe it will sweep the boards at the Oscars this year. For Abie Philbin Bowman, the film is a reminder that politics and politicians matter.
I was named after a 19th century American president. It has its drawbacks. On my first day of school, my teacher taught our class a song they would taunt me with for the next 8 years. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. When I got too old for that, they called me Abie the baby. In secondary school, I became rabies, then scabies. But they say that no matter how weird your taste in music or clothes, if you stick around long enough, you'll eventually come back into fashion. So perhaps I was a little over-invested when I went to see Spielberg's film Lincoln, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. And the trouble with being over-invested, as Brian Cowan will tell you, is that you tend to be disappointed. Which I was. Not disappointed because Daniel Day-Lewis was anything short of superb. And not even because Spielberg pulled the usual Hollywood travesty of rewriting history. Thankfully, in the movie, President Lincoln does not acquire a sexy young love interest, a gay best friend, or a brooding nemesis with an awful European accent played by Javier Bardem. But I was disappointed in the film because it wasn't nearly long enough. And I realised that movies have been ruined for me by box sets. Movies are kind of like one-night stands. Most of them offer a quick thrill. The really great ones can be inspiring, magical and life-changing. But honestly, there are only so many possibilities you can fit into something so brief. So most are kind of formulaic. No matter how crazy and spontaneous the behaviour of those involved, you can't be that surprised because you've only just met. Whereas a box set has more time and space to grow on you. There are so many directions you can move in, and when a character you've gotten to know and love does something truly courageous or unexpected, it really catches you off guard and makes you think. The problem with having a one-night stand with Abraham Lincoln is that he has so much more to teach us, if only we had the time. I really hope somebody someday writes the screenplay for a new HBO series, Team of Rivals, billed as The West Wing meets Deadwood. And there are two scenes in particular I hope they include. One is Lincoln's initial meeting with Frederick Douglass, a slave who escaped captivity, taught himself to read, wrote a best-selling account of his life as a slave, and even came to Britain and Ireland, where he spoke alongside Daniel O'Connell. When Frederick Douglass met President Lincoln, he said that in all his time with anti-slavery advocates, he'd never once met any man who treated him as an absolute equal. That was Lincoln's greatness. But the most interesting thing they couldn't fit in the movie was why Lincoln entered politics in the first place. In 1832, Lincoln told a friend that his greatest desire was being truly esteemed by my fellow men. Nobody with half Lincoln's talent or half a brain would enter politics for that reason today. And we are all much, much poorer for it. Young people today have more chance of winning public respect by going on X Factor with a ridiculous haircut and failing to perform basic choreography. A woman who constantly belittles and undermines her husband can't be surprised if he just stops trying. And she can't really expect a queue of confident, self-respecting men waiting to take his place. If we constantly bitch about and undermine every person who enters politics, then nobody with any self-respect or any of Lincoln's idealism or talent will ever go into politics. Of course, when we are misled, as we were into the current crisis, we must criticise those who misled us. And we will never have perfect politicians. But if we want better politicians, we need to create a culture where decent people who take an honest position earn public respect. Otherwise, we're poisoning our own drinking well. Or we could throw in the towel and invite Jedward into politics. Who better to renegotiate our bailout with the IMF? Seriously. After half an hour with Jedward, the IMF will give us whatever we want. After half an hour with Jedward, Bono and Bob Geldof, we will own Germany.
Abie Philbin Bowman. Lincoln is on January